Hello, everyone, and welcome to our 47th episode of In the Trenches, Kroll's weekly cyber threat intelligence briefing. My name is Keith Wojcicki, Global Head of Threat Intelligence. This week, we are joined by George Glass, Dave Truman, Mikesh Nagar, and of course, our in-house expert with ransomware, Sarah Becker, all from our cyber threat intelligence team. So today is April 22nd, 2024, and we'll be covering the most recent trends that the CTI team is witnessing in the trenches. So let's talk news you can use for April 22nd. So we all hear about Avante. Well, Avante Avalanche 6.4.3 has addressed new security vulnerabilities with no exploitation reported at the time of the disclosure. But to mitigate these vulnerabilities, it's strongly advised and recommended to update the Apache 6.4.3, which includes fixes for 27 CVEs listed on the advisory page. These vulnerabilities impact previous versions of Avalanche as well. With that, large-scale brute force activity targeting VPNs, SSH, using login credentials. So Cisco has observed a surge in global brute force attacks targeting VPN services, web application authentication inferences, and SSH services since March 18th. The attacks appear to be coming from Tor exit nodes and other anonymizing tunnels. These attacks posed a risk of unauthorized network access, account lockouts, and denial of service. Now, we're seeing a lot of these DDoS attacks, especially here at Kroll. The attack traffic will escalate over time and is expected to continue growing. To mitigate this, Cisco has provided known IP addresses in a Git repository, which you can talk to Kroll and we'll send out a report and you'll see it. But keep in mind, these IPs are subject to change. So mitigation strategies will vary depending on each affected VPN service. Any questions on that, please contact Kroll. Threat actors also offer telecoms employees $300 for SIM swapping services. This kind of goes back into the Telegram channels of Lapsus when they used to do this as well. But T-Mobile, Verizon, Charter Communication employees have been targeted via text messages, offering up to $300 to assist in swim swap frauds. Say that 10 times fast. The message encourages staff to engage in a SIM swap and then email the resets. T-Mobile has confirmed the campaign but denies any breach, while investigations continue across other affected carriers. This insider threat campaign is part of a broader increase in SIM swap attacks, prompting the FCC to enforce stricter carrier authentication to protect consumers from significant financial loss and unauthorized access to personal information. This is big, folks. The SIM swap, it's here. It's something that we really need to consider, so be careful on that. If you have any questions or concerns, please connect with Kroll at cti@kroll.com. That's cti@kroll.com. Now, let's get into today's briefing. Today, we're going to cover the following trends our team is concentrating on. The PAN-OS vulnerability, we discussed it last week. George is going to kind of get an update on that. PuTTY SSH. Mikesh will give us a malware spotlight update. And of course, ransomware roundup with Sarah. So George, as you briefed last week on the 0 day of Palo Alto's vulnerability, now we are seeing a number of different developments. Can you update us on what you're seeing, especially with the PAN-OS?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Keith. There's been a number of updates since last week. Kroll ourselves, we're observing widespread exploitation of the vulnerability as we predicted would happen following the release of a public proof of concept. As with many of the vulnerabilities that we've been covering that affect many large organizations and security products, the vulnerability is fairly trivial to exploit, and there's actually a number of ways of doing so. There's a lot of technical detail in the report, but essentially the vulnerability has two parts: a path traversal vulnerability, which you can see at the beginning of that session ID string there, that the threat actor puts in the cookie to put a log in the device telemetry directory of the appliance. That will create a file, and then there is improper sanitization of the file name, and due to the way that those telemetry logs are collected and sent, the system command will be executed. Now, Palo Alto have released several updates to their advisory, and if you're running these devices, we recommend checking that at least daily. And they categorize the attacks into four different levels. Level 0 are unsuccessful exploitation attempts. We're seeing hundreds and thousands of those. Level 1, where the vulnerability is being tested on the device. The device was compromised. A 0-byte file is created and is resident on the firewall. That allows a threat actor to access that file and receive a 403 instead of a 404 error, confirming that the device is indeed vulnerable. Level 2, a file on the device is copied to a location accessible with a web request, though the file may not be subsequently downloaded. That's what Palo Alto say they are observing, and some of the file names are included in the advisory there. And level 3, which are signs of interactive command execution, which may include shell-based backdoors, introduction of code, downloading files and running commands. Here at Crawl, we're seeing all 4 of those, and it's very widespread, and we assess that it's being conducted by several different threat actors. Additionally, Palo Alto released updates saying that the original workaround advice by disabling the telemetry service was not sufficient to protect the device. Although we haven't seen exploitation directly of using a different exploit path yet, it is possible to exploit this vulnerability without using the device telemetry path and relying on that service. They subsequently released a new threat ID to prevent against some of these attacks. So that's threat ID 95189 and 95191. And according to Palo Alto, they are effective at blocking 90% of the attacks. My understanding is these threat IDs look for both the path traversal and the improper sanitization and the commands included in the file name. However, the best thing to do is to patch. The latest update that we're tracking, and this is a rapidly developing topic, is the reports that an open source project called Gorilla may be the source of the path traversal vulnerability. The Gorilla project is vulnerable to that path traversal, and a CVE is apparently being assigned. Hundreds, I think actually probably thousands of projects use the Gorilla Sessions project, but the circumstances about getting code execution are almost certainly not going to be the same across those projects, although the path traversal does exist. It's how the Gorilla library itself is being implemented that causes the remote code execution. And one final thing to say, just from all the stuff that we're seeing over the last week, is if you have not patched as of the advisory date, so that's I think Friday the 12th of April, if you did not apply patches over that weekend and the mitigations when they and you've just been relying on the mitigations, you should assume compromise and you know, get in touch with us and we can help with that. But also to just continue checking the Palo Alto advisory, because information is being added to that daily and sometimes hourly. And that's all from me, Keith. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, George. And as everyone can see, you know, Kroll is considered an expert in this field. We do have solutions for this. So if you do have any questions pertaining to the Palo Alto vulnerability and how to fix it, our digital forensics teams can and will talk to you about this and what you can do to help out. So again, George, thank you so much. With that, Dave, I know you're going to discuss a new vulnerability that could lead to a major compromise. Can you provide us some details on the vulnerability? Oh, you know what? And I'm sorry, we're going to Spotlight here. My apologies. This a little out of order here. So I'll tell you what, Mikesh, let's skip that. Can you talk about the Malware Chronicles and what we're seeing in malware today?
Well, thank you. So in today's Malware Chronicles, we're looking at GAMARUE. GAMARUE, also known as Andromeda, was initially emerged back in 2011 and is a worm type malware. It quickly became known for distributing a large volume of malware, and according to reports from Microsoft, has been used to spread more than 80 different types of malware family, including ransomwares. This malware has been designed to steal sensitive information as well as deliver additional malicious payload on infected machines, as well as incorporate them into a botnet. Now, the initial access route for this malware is commonly that's been observed is through USB, where the malware itself would infect a USB, and then when the user plugs it into another device, would then infect that machine, as well as through network shares and phishing. The malware uses the malware exploits the Windows Auto Run feature to launch automatically in the background whilst users are trying to access files on their drive. Upon execution, the malware itself attaches itself into system directories and masquerades as legitimate system files in order to avoid suspicion or being detected. The malware also has additional functionality to be able to modify the system files as well as settings to ensure that it keeps persistence. A distinctive feature that sets this type of USB malware apart from other malwares is the use of its Morse code in place of alphanumeric characters, which can be seen in the top right of the slide. Now, the incorporation of this Morse code serves as several purposes. Firstly, it complicates the efforts for security researchers and threat hunters to try and reverse engineer what the malware command is doing, as well as it helps the malware evade common static signature-based virus protection or detection solutions. GAMARUE also further communicates with C2 servers to allow it receive malicious instructions, update its codebase, as well as download and exfiltrate data. Now, what we advise is for users who rely on USB devices to enable security features on antivirus solutions or endpoint detection solutions to scan all removable drives before they are mounted and opened onto the machines. As well as that, administrators can also manage removable storage access controls using group policies to restrict the read, write, and or execute actions from USB drives as well. That's all from me, Keith.
Thank you very much, Mukesh, for the update. Appreciate it. Now we're going to go back to Dave to talk about a potential vulnerability that leads to major compromise. Dave?
Thank you. Researchers have discovered a vulnerability in the PuTTY SSH client with a number of CVE 2024-31497. PuTTY is an open source SSH client on Windows, and due to its open source nature is used in other products. The vulnerability allows for the recovery of 521-bit EC DSA private keys, also known as NIST P521 private keys. Other sizes of EC DSA and other key algorithms are unaffected. In order to recover the private key, the attacker must have access to around 60 valid EC DSA signatures generated by PuTTY. This requires either a compromised SSH server or access to publicly available signatures such as those from forwarded GitHub commits. These signatures are not obtainable directly from capturing network packets. Other notable projects that are affected due to their reliance on PuTTY are FileZilla, WinSCP, TortoiseGit, and Tortoise SVN. The issue is fixed in versions for PuTTY 0.81, for FileZilla 3.67.0, for WinSCP 6.3.3, and for TortoiseGit 2.15.0.1. Users of Tortoise SVN should update the plink.exe to the version from the PuTTY 0.81. While this vulnerability is not easy for an actor to take advantage of, successful recovery of a private key could lead to significant compromise. As such, it is recommended to update the affected software to fixed versions and regenerate any NIST P521 private keys. Thank you, Keith.
Thank you, David. Really appreciate the update. Now, let's talk to Sarah about ransomware. Sarah, there has been some action again this morning with ransomware that is potentially to be a major impact to the healthcare industry. This is cutting edge, just came out. Sarah, what do you got for us today?
Yeah, Keith, we have a couple updates, including the Change Healthcare data. But first, we have Dark Vault. This is a new ransomware group emerging because there was the data leak site identified, and this was obviously beginning of this month. It caught researchers' attention just because the data leak design kind of had similar elements to how Lockbit's site is, which a lot of people have noticed and are familiar with Lockbit's kind of design elements. So this kind of caught everyone's attention. And then once researchers were disclosing about the similarities, because of course there's going to be rumors of, is this Lockbit affiliates and whatnot? There is no confirmation of that, but once that speculation was there, the group did kind of change their main site look, as in the screenshot right here, but they still have the Lockbit style with their blog listings. They do describe themselves as an exclusive online community focused on technology, privacy, and security. They have 16 victims claimed as of right now, and they are teasing future offerings for different users, such as doxes, black hat services, and pawn sites. So that's an update on Dark Vault. We're monitoring just to see what comes of this group. For our next story, last week we talked about Ransom Hub listing Change Healthcare. This is big news just because of the Black Hat affiliates that were involved in the Change Healthcare stolen data and whatnot went over to Ransom Hub, and that is how Ransom Hub obtained this information. So they updated their Change Healthcare posting previously last week by declaring that they weren't posting the data and that they were listing it for sale to anyone interested in purchasing it. They didn't have a specific price listed for the Change Healthcare data. All they had was just stating to contact Ransom Hub about the purchase. So while monitoring this listing just to see if any additional news comes out, this morning we noticed that the Change Healthcare post has now been removed from Ransom Hub's data leak site. So it's not known yet as to why it was removed. We can only assume that a purchase must have been made, or some kind of negotiation may have happened as to why it was taken down. But as of right now, there is no Change Healthcare posting on Ransom Hub's page. And then our last story, we have we recently observed a new ransomware variant by the name of Embargo. This variant delivers a ransom note titled "How to Recover Files." It's a text file, and it will detail all the victim organizations and how they can decrypt their systems and payments. So we're assessing that this is another, as we report in previous ransomware roundups, we always are identifying new groups. So we're assessing that this is likely a newer actor behind this variant, or they're just new on the scene with creating this group. And we're going to continue monitoring just to see what comes of this group, or if there's any other big attacks that occur. So if any organization encounters a ransom note referencing Embargo, we encourage you to contact us, and we'll still monitor all of this. So thank you, Keith. That's all for me.
Thank you very much, Sarah. Yeah, this could have a huge impact, especially for the healthcare. If things are being sold, things are going to be released. It's very, very concerning. So with that, today is a very special day, especially for me. It's National Girl Scout Leaders Day. Just an amazing organization. Today recognizes the thousands of leaders who volunteer their time and share their experiences with youth across America and across the country. These magnificent women, provide a foundation of confidence, experience, respect, courage that stays with a young woman throughout their lifetime. And so I ask, please celebrate the day by thanking a Girl Scout volunteer. It is truly a tremendous organization, and we here at Kroll support it. We give all kinds of different presentations, and they even have a cybersecurity patch, which is fantastic. So please go out and thank a Girl Scout today. I would like to thank everyone that's taken the time to tune into Kroll's weekly cyber threat intelligence briefing. We hope you found this session informative. If you have any follow-up questions about this briefing or any other questions pertaining to cybersecurity, please contact the team at cti@kroll.com. That's cti@kroll.com. I hope everyone has a wonderful day. Thank you.